have been well trained.
No.
You don't have to carry a sword to be powerful.
I won't fail you.
Oh, do not.
I'm not afraid.
There is no try.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Chance Cube coverage of the 2018 World Championship of Star Wars Destiny. My name is Todd, and in this video we'll be watching a battle between Zach on the left, running Elite Hondo, Elite Yoda, and Mateo on the right, running Elite Yoda, Rey Padawan. The deck on the left, Yoda Hondo. I've heard some people call it Yondu before. I'm not sure what that reference is. Just kidding, I do. Anyway, Yoda Hondo on the left, making a very large showing at the World Championship. The deck on the right, being run by Mateo, not a meta deck necessarily, but I have definitely seen similar decks with the three blue characters do extremely well with running things. You've got your ancient lightsabers, you've got your force illusions to be able to heal your characters. I've even seen some of them run force heal, which continues to use the special chaining to heal even more damage off of your characters. And then of course Rey's ability, this is Awakening's Rey, to get that upgrade on her, roll her out, or do another ambush action. And then the Padawan, being able to discount your resources. Each of these characters on Mateo's side here, the Elite Yoda, Rey, Padawan, every one of them has a very special role to fill and can definitely be used to close out games, each and every one of them. Now, Yoda Hondo is getting the stolen intel to get that 6th card. Hopefully that 6th card is helpful for him. Yoda Hondo running Frozen Wastes, which will remove a character die every time you claim. Mateo running Obi-Wan Kenobi's Hut, which will give a blue character a shield, or if you spend a resource, you can give a non-blue character a shield. So in this particular case, Zach, if he had won the battlefield, I would imagine he would have picked his, which will be more advantageous. I think he can claim faster anyway. Mateo also actually deciding to go with Frozen Wastes. Not completely sure if Mateo is going to be able to claim ahead of Yoda Hondo. Yoda Hondo just having so much more synergy between the different die sides, and being able to special chain into Hondo's ability is just going to go nuts. Mateo, however, feeling definitely confident about his chances against this particular deck, and putting those shields, one on Rey and one on Padawan. Mateo, we did see that it binds all things in his hand in the beginning, so that's definitely going to help him with some resource generation against that Yoda Hondo. Double force speed on Yoda to start is definitely a heck of a good showing. That most likely means that until Mateo can knock out Yoda, Zach is definitely going to be able to claim before Mateo. And there we go. We get some force speed special on Yoda. On the Hondo side, that's definitely going to speed him up considerably. Mateo probably still considering what to do as far as getting resources to make sure that Hondo can be paid and be kept off of the damage. He does have the Yoda special showing, so that if he needs to, he can go ahead and claim that resource, which he ends up doing. And then he focuses the other Yoda to another special. Means he most likely will be able to get some pretty good mitigation, or just remove Hondo's die for the Hondo special. We do see the force speed. Oh my goodness, a cunning on Hondo. That means Hondo can potentially use his special 3 times in a game. Oh my goodness, and another cunning. So Zach ended up using the force speed specials and the Yoda specials to chain a whole bunch of actions together, get 2 cunnings out on Hondo, which means he's going to be able to proxy Hondo's ability so many times. Or if Mateo ends up playing some specials, he's going to be able to proxy off of those as well. Wait, that means... Wow, Zach had both cunnings and both force speeds in his opening hand. Those are like the key cards that you need for that particular deck. Holy cow. What a lucky draw in the beginning. Let's see what Mateo, see if Mateo places anything else out. See what he got. In the meantime, I think Zach still has that extra action. One more action from the 4-speed specials. He was able to resolve both the eYodas and then do the 4-speed specials, which meant he was able to get 4 additional actions. Plays Cunning, activates, and gets one more action, which he does resolve the eHondo special. And Mateo deciding if he's going to pay him off or take the damage. He does decide to pay him. He wants to keep that damage off early if at all possible. He does still have It Binds All Things, which he activates to be able to play an Ancient Lightsaber on Ray, giving Ray an ambush action to be able to roll out, or possibly for Padawan to roll out or play another card from his hand. He does decide to roll in Ray. Not a bad call. Awakening's Ray, still a very powerful character if you can take advantage of the action cheating, which Mateo definitely has the tools to do it. I think, though, that as far as the speed part of this game, I think Zach is definitely going to have that in spades, having the double 4 speed out, just sitting there waiting to be activated and just roll out like crazy. Now, at the beginning of the game, when Mateo decided to go with the Frozen Waste Battlefield, I'm pretty sure Zach definitely felt pretty confident about that, having both 4 speeds in his hand. But we'll see if those shields end up working out for Mateo a little bit later in the game. He is able to focus using eYoda's special, gaining, being able to turn the Ancient Lightsaber to the 3 damage side. That may seem a little bit dangerous, but we do know that Padawan has 3 base damage sides. So even if we end up with, we end up removing one of Ray's dice and still being able to get, or actually, I think he did resolve Ray's die to get that extra card out of his hand. It looks like, oh my goodness, look at the hand that Zach was dealt in the opening of this game. So he had the stolen intel, so he had 6 cards in his hand. I want you to look at what those 6 cards were. We had 4 speed, another 4 speed, a cunning, another cunning, a handcrafted light bow, and a handcrafted light bow. I don't know if you can get much of I don't know if you can get a better hand than that. And then being able to claim the Frozen Waste to remove the Padawan die at the end and make that Ancient Lightsaber +3 into a +0. That definitely made a difference. Way to go, guys. Most impressive. So very curious and fun first round. eYoda and Hondo. Now, this is the key thing about the eYoda Hondo deck, is that without that light bow, pretty much all of eYoda Hondo's damage would have been able to be mitigated, but being able to get that light bow out and able to proxy that off of the cunning definitely made a huge difference. Otherwise, we wouldn't have seen any damage at all from either side in that first round of this game. So coming into the second round, the eYoda Hondo player is probably going to be looking to get eYoda out, get those 4 speed specials, resolve those to activate Hondo, and then do the non-mitigatable damage, similar to the Sabine things that can be done, or if you have yellow characters with the quick draw and weapons with ambush. All these things work very similarly. So Mateo running an overconfidence. That's definitely a 2-of in his deck. He's going to be wanting to get the maximum removal on Zach's dice. Zach having 4 dice per character right now, just being able to flood the field with up to 8 dice at a time is just a super powerful move, and definitely something that Mateo may end up struggling with. Blue Hero not having a ton of removal, relying a lot upon healing to get rid of your opponent's dice through kind of retroactive damage mitigation. But it still works, still absolutely works. We do see the 4 speed come down on Mateo's side, so he's going to be looking to get a little bit faster and hopefully get some of that non-mitigatable damage across the field. Mateo, some other upgrades he probably has in his deck. I'm guessing he's probably got the maybe probably not the handcrafted light bow, but the heirloom lightsaber is definitely something if he's running the sticks package. Most likely, I'm guessing he's running Shotos as well. Shotos being able to proactively remove 1 damage per round, basically by being able to remove shields. And if you have a full shielded up character, being able to remove your opponent's shields and getting the damage in. So eHondo still trying to decide what to do. Oh my goodness, here is the all-in play. So eHondo is going to be able to resolve any number of his dice in whatever order he feels like. He's going to be able to take advantage of the focus on Yoda's die to be able to just turn his dice to whatever he feels like and whatever he'd like. Mateo, unfortunately, all-in is the ultimate non-mitigatable dice side card. He's just able to sit there, and all Mateo can do is just watch what happens and hope that Zach maybe does some less than ideal plays or less efficient plays to hopefully help him to survive into the next rounds. We're seeing a lot of specials on the Cunnings, on the Hondo, and on the handcrafted light bow, and these things are going to get pretty wicked pretty quick. It just depends on what order that he resolves them in. He resolves the Hondo first, forcing Mateo to decide whether to give him the resource or to take the damage. With the Cunning and the Lightbow special, each showing basically 3 damage. I think you want to pay for that, otherwise you've got a dead Rey before you even get to roll her out. So he does do that. He does end up paying for the Hondo. Now, Zach still resolving dice off of all-in. He's just basically taking his time to make sure that he plays this exactly the way he needs to. He does do the Lightbow special on Rey, getting the 3 damage through, which is definitely a huge thing. Then he resolves a 4-speed special. Does he have some... Oh, there it is. The Force Wave. Being able to play the Force Wave, he's not going to be able to roll it in, but he can proxy it off the special. Now, for those of you who may be a little bit confused or have a question about how Cunning works with the Force Wave. So, Cunning says that you resolve a special ability on another card in play, as if it were your card. Now, in this case, he is proxying his own card, so that's fine. There's no question there. The question comes is Force Wave has 2 specials, and they each cost a resource. So, when you resolve the Cunning die, do you have to pay the resource? I actually had this exact situation come up at a recent tournament that I helped organize, and the only difference was the Cunning was on the opposite side of the table, being resolved against the owner of the Force Wave. And so the owner of the Force Wave made the case that if he's resolving the special has a cost. The person who was resolving the Cunning, however, did point out to the fact that it says the special ability on the card, not a special ability on a die. Now, that specific distinction may seem a little bit weird, but as a matter of fact, in looking and researching it a little bit later, it made perfect sense. The ruling that we did come up with on the spot, and I did get a help from another very experienced Destiny player to resolve that, the ruling on the spot was that no, you did not have to pay the resource cost when resolving Cunning off of a Force Wave. And the reason we kind of came to that conclusion is because it does say specifically to resolve the special ability on the card, not on the die. And the die is what is showing the resource cost. Now, if FFG had decided that they wanted to make sure that you had to pay the resource cost every time, then on the special ability it would probably say pay a resource to deal 3 damage to one character, 2 damage to another character, 1 damage to another character, but they didn't decide to do that. They actually just put it on the die. And that actually interacts with several other cards as well. Rebel War Room comes to mind, being able to claim the battlefield and resolve a die showing a resource cost without having to pay it. That's definitely one of the interactions, but not the only one for sure. So, very cool play by Zach, being able to proxy the Cunning, proxying the Force Wave off the Cunning to get some pretty cool plays out there. So over on Mateo's side, while we've been discussing this, he was able to get out a Shoto lightsaber. He's re-rolled a couple of times trying to get some extra stuff out. Zach still having the ability to claim and remove one of Mateo's character dice if he ever feels that Mateo is getting a little too strong for Zach's own good. So we are showing a little bit of damage over here on Mateo's side. His characters are hurting quite a bit. We've seen, it looks like 10 damage go through onto Mateo's side. Luckily, that damage did have to be split from the force wave, so he still has all 3 of his characters, and will most likely be able to take those characters into the next round. Zach not really having anything else left to do in the game. So, looks like Zach did end up claiming on Mateo and removing the eYoda discard. That should definitely tell Mateo that if he can get another discard side out there, he should take advantage of it. Zach being so worried about that discard going off that he claimed, and instead of removing Ray's die or the Padawan's die that can both hit those base melee damages for you, he decided to remove the die that would threaten the card that is still in his hand. So Mateo probably seeing that coming. Unfortunately, he also doesn't want to get rid of any more cards in his hand, so he does not re-roll. He's got die sides that can actually be used, and decides to just go ahead and resolve those, get some shields on his characters, get a whole bunch of resources, and then he uses the Ancient Lightsaber ability to be removed and put on the bottom of his deck in order to heal 2 damage off of Ray, bringing her back up to 6 health. She now has 4 remaining instead of the previous only 2, and she's got a shield on her. If Mateo can draw into another blue weapon, then he's going to be able to get that shield and protect Ray even further for the coming round. On Zach's side of things, it looks like we see the second chance come out. That's definitely going to be a big deal. However, with Mateo focusing down eYoda, the main healing that you're looking for on Zach's side is going to be the lone operatives, the force illusions, and possibly ancient lightsabers. I don't know if eHondo really runs those. I think eHondo usually prefers to try to get the specials out and proxy off those with cunnings, and then being able to focus directly into them with eYoda. So that cunning there essentially basically turns into either a handcrafted light bow or a force wave, whichever one you decide you'd like more. So Mateo rolling out his eYoda, trying to get some possibly get some extra resources. He's got 4 right now, 5 if you include It Binds All Things. So if he's got any weapons in his hand, he can absolutely play them. So we do see an entangle, removing both of the eYoda dice. If you've watched any of the previous videos that I've done, I keep calling entangle ensnare. I apologize for that. For some reason, I even looked it up after saying ensnare just to make sure that I hadn't messed that up. And for some reason, when I looked it up, I thought it said ensnare again. It wasn't until I was the tournament organizer at a local game store that I saw that card played, and I looked at it again and went, oh no, I've been saying it wrong this entire time. It's entangle, not ensnare. Now, the name not as important as the effect. You pay 2 resources to remove up to 2 of an opponent's dice, showing up to a value of 3. I know that's a lot of mays and a lot of up 2s. So, to break it down, you can remove 1 or 2 dice. The value of those dice combined has to be 3 or less. So he used it on a couple of eYoda specials, or a eYoda special and a shield, it looks like it could have been. And the values between those 2 are 0 and 1, so easily fitting within the parameters of the card, and being able to remove 2 of your opponent's dice for just using a single card is extremely effective. So on Mateo's side, he was able to spend all 5 of the resources, 4 of the resources, and It Binds All Things, to be more correct, and was able to get a vibro knife and an heirloom lightsaber, which does allow, because the vibro knife has ambush, being played on Ray allows him 2 extra actions. The extra heirloom lightsaber taking up an action to play it, but then giving another action due to Ray. So he did have 2 actions. He rolled out Ray and is now showing, it looks like 4 damage that can easily go on to eYoda. If Mateo can get enough damage sides, he actually has enough dice in this round to be able to take eYoda out this round. It's just going to depend on rolls, and if he can get everything to work perfectly. I think Mateo, as the extra action from all the Ray's ambush actions, decided to resolve the force speed to take an additional 2 actions. So it looks like he's going to be discarding to reroll. He just leaves the 3 melee on the heirloom lightsaber. Rerolls, gets the +2 on Ray. So he's got 5 showing, and he can easily just throw those into Yoda right now. As far as I can see, the eHondo player does not have any more resources currently in his hand. So even if he has the Force Illusion, if Mateo had just been just a little bit luckier on the Vibro Knife and the Shoto, that could have very easily been a knocked out Yoda before Yoda could even have resolved any of his dice. What a really cool play for Mateo, seeing that and taking advantage of possibly a really good situation. Unfortunately, just sometimes the dice just don't agree with you. That's what we call this game, Star Wars Destiny. Your destiny, you don't even know what it is until you roll. All right, so looks like we are going to be using the Force Wave special again to do 3 to Rey, 2 to Yoda, and 1 to the Padawan. The Padawan getting a shield every time that we've seen her be pegged, so just able to roll out there and get some good damage. Now, with Hondo coming in and being able to do so much damage, Mateo might be waiting to roll in his Padawan until he can get the redeploy off of the heirloom. But he may just also want to try to just get that character in there and see if he can do some damage. So deciding not to discard to reroll the Shoto, just taking the shield onto Rey, trying to avoid kill shot. Oh man, goodness. Unfortunately, with 0 resources, Zach has just rolled a kill shot on Rey. So Rey having 4 health left, but we also have a handcrafted light bow showing a special and 2 Hondo dice showing a special. Mateo rolls in the Padawan and actually gets the resource. So Mateo very likely to avoid knockout. But I forgot the fact that specials can all be resolved at the same time. So Mateo rolling in the Padawan and getting that resource side, unable to help him until his next ability to claim that resource, and ends up losing Rey in this first action. He takes the resource, hoping to possibly use the cunning special, being able to pay for the cunning special off a Hondo proxy. Unfortunately, there's a Force Wave and a light bow in play that can also be proxied, either one of those easily taking out Yoda in this next round. So let's see what Zach decides to do. So he's going to use the focus on the Force speed to turn the cunning to the special. Mateo claiming the battlefield. Unfortunately, the cunning is not a character dice, and so he ends up losing Yoda with the Force speed. So we have a Padawan with an heirloom lightsaber versus a Yoda and a Hondo. So Zach did end up using the cunning special to proxy the Force Wave. So he was able to do 3 damage to Yoda, 2 to the Padawan, but then actually had to deal that 1 extra damage to himself due to the lack of characters on Mateo's side of the board. Force Wave, its ability to do that splash damage, has to be done. So at this point, Force Wave we might see overwritten for like a Force Throw or some other Force ability on Yoda, because at this point Force Wave is just a little too expensive. We do see a hyperspace jump and easy pickings and friends in low places on Zach's side. So he's got a whole bunch of removal, a whole bunch of control. Mateo getting a second Shoto lightsaber for the game out on the Padawan, giving the Padawan basically 1 extra health each game, or each round. So we do get Yoda rolling out, and he rolls the specials for days. He's got a special on Yoda and on the Force speed. Did not hit the special on the Force Wave. Now, if he does not have an upgrade to replace Force Wave, which it looks like he may not, then Yoda could use his focus to turn the force waves die into the 2 indirect damage side. Mateo only has 1 character left, so that 2 damage is not as indirect as the die may seem. And sure enough, that's what he does. He does end up focusing the force wave the force wave die into the 2 indirect, thus preventing him from having to deal damage to himself. At that tournament that I mentioned earlier, we actually had that situation once again show up at the end of the game. There was a yellow character left with second chance, and if the force wave player had resolved the force wave, it would have popped with the second chance, bringing the character back up to only 5 health remaining on the yellow character, and then it would have dealt another 3 damage to the force wave player, and that extra 3 damage would have put them over on damage and actually would have made them lose the game. They did see the play coming, though, and were able to claim the battlefield instead of even resolving the die, thus winning by 1 point instead of losing by 1 point. It's a very interesting die. It's a very interesting conundrum that you run into when Force Wave has been so successful this entire game, and now it's going to hurt you more than it hurts your opponent. So being aware of the battlefield, being aware of the board state is extremely important when you're using a card like Force Wave. It's a double-edged sword, that Force Wave. All right. So Mateo rolling in, getting some sweet, sweet damage on the Padawan. We could be looking at a knocked out Yoda, unless Yoda and Zach are able to do something. Or, sorry, Yoda and Zach. The eHondo player, Zach, being able to do things. So we ended up having played a mind trick on Mateo, having to split his dice in 2. Mateo splitting his dice into 2 piles. Zach removing the base damage, and then Mateo, smartly, having guard in his hand, able to remove the last couple of eHondo's dice, to using the guard to great effect to keep his character alive. All right, so coming into the next round, very likely to be the last round. The Padawan only having 2 remaining health and 1 shield. We're just looking for a 3 damage side on any of those. We do get it. We do get the Force Wave special. So if Mateo does not have any mitigation, he would not be able. That's game right there if he can't do anything. But he could activate. Oh, yeah, spoke too soon. He could activate, which he does, and get the Shoto ability to gain an extra shield on the Padawan, taking the Padawan out of kill range of that Force Wave. Very smart, very smart. It's all, and that's one of the reasons why you got to make sure that you always look over all of your options. Say, okay, so what are the different actions I can take? I can play a card. Do I have a card that can mitigate that? No, I don't. Okay, so if I can't do that, what else can I do? I can activate a character. Okay, would activating my character help me? If not, then do I have a card ability somewhere that could help me? An ability, a power action, anything that would help me to avoid being defeated by my opponent. And in this case, Mateo just had to look a couple of steps and saw that, hey, you know, if I just hang on to that, if I just roll in, I'll get an extra shield, and then that Force Wave, only being able to do 3 damage, is not going to be able to make it through. Now, one thing Mateo is super scared of right now, I believe, is that light bow special. That light bow special is lethal right now. Being able to remove the Padawan's shields, all of the Padawan's shields, and deal an extra 2 damage. That is in kill range of the Padawan if he can get that special off. But we did see a hidden motive from Mateo getting rid of the Force Wave. We see, and it binds all things, or sorry, not it binds all things, friends in low places from Zach to be able to discard an event from Mateo's hand. Mateo then afterwards playing the ancient lightsaber that we briefly saw when his hand was revealed. So that means that Mateo is he is hanging on. That Padawan is definitely doing her due diligence in this game. She is definitely becoming an all-star very quickly, being able to just stay alive, being able to swing for some damage. And we I don't know if Yoda is in killing range anymore. I don't believe so because he does have the Force Illusion and the extra shields. So what we're going to be looking for as this, as far as I can tell, it looks like it may actually go into the next round. And if that's the case, Mateo is going to be looking to try to do all the damage that he can in a couple of packets. Now, Yoda did take some damage, so Yoda is now up to 8 damage on him, meaning that Mateo, all he needs to do is have 2 packets of 2 damage each, and he's going to be able to knock out Yoda at the beginning of the next round and be able to take away some of the consistency. Unfortunately, Zach focusing to the Lightbow Special, which means Mateo had to get rid of that Ancient Lightsaber, will not be able to roll it in the next round. Zach re-rolling, trying to go for the win here, kind of seems like. Not quite getting it, getting some discard, some disrupt. Mateo kind of breathing a sigh of relief for another few seconds at least, until we get another possible discard to re-roll from Zach. Mateo really in a tight pickle here. He's got 1 die out, showing a blank. That die really only having 3 base damage sides, so if he re-rolls it, he cannot resolve the blanks or the modifier sides. But he did have Force Speed. He plays the Force Speed on the Padawan. That's going to allow him, hopefully, if he has Concentrate plays or one of 100 other focusing cards, he's very likely to be able to knock out Yoda in this next round. Mateo ends up claiming and removing the Yoda die, so that way Mateo does keep all of his last remaining card in his hand at least. Looks like both players running through the decks pretty good. Things are getting a little bit sparse. We are getting closer and closer to calling time. We are down into the last 5 minutes of this round, so both of these players keeping an eye on the clock, keeping an eye on the damage and how much damage has been dealt. Right now, Mateo having 2 characters knocked out and 5 damage on the Padawan. That means a total of 25 health dealt to the Padawan, and then so far only 9 damage on the Hondo Yoda. So in order to take this round, it looks like Mateo is going to be really trying hard to really knock some characters out this time. Hopefully get some of that consistency of Yoda's dice off the field. Both players draw up. As far as I can tell, both of them still having decks, so neither one of them about to get milled in the next 3 seconds anyway. Yoda Special could actually be transferred to a mill strategy. The Yoda Hondo can easily, and well, maybe not easily, but quickly change from a damage deck to a discard deck. And as the game progresses, as resources become more and more prevalent, it definitely becomes easier for Mateo to be able to pay off any Hondo specials or play some removal from his hand. And so the longer it goes, it might actually behoove the Yoda Hondo player to switch to a mill strategy at this point. But we'll see. We'll see. He may not be able to do that. Padawan still, not still, but once again, having 5 damage and a shield, meaning that a Lightbow Special, a Cunning to proxy, even to proxy off the Force Wave. He could proxy off the Force Wave, deal 2 damage to Hondo and another one to Yoda, and still come out of this ahead. He could even knock out his own Yoda and still take the game if he's able to proxy that Force Wave off of a Cunning. However, definitely no need to kill your Yoda, and Hondo has a second chance played on him just for kicks and giggles. So Mateo really needing to pull some heavy plays out of here. Let's see if he's got any kind of cards that can take advantage of that. So luckily Zach rolled in, did not get a whole bunch of stuff that he could use, at least as far as to win the game. He did get 1 discard, which he could be going for. Mateo re-rolling some dice, trying to get the damage to knock out Yoda. All he needs is the 2 side on the Padawan, and he is in like the Flynn. Zach looking at his character. rolling in the Hondo. Let's see what he ended up getting. We did get a Hondo special, but Mateo does have the resources to pay for that. Looks like he gets a focus on one of the other Hondo dice, as well as a disrupt on the cunning. And I believe there's a 2 melee sitting there on the light bow. So while the Hondo special would most likely be just paid for by Mateo, the light bow, if he can use that Hondo focus to the special, becomes a very, very potent thing. However, let's see what Zach decides to do. He ends up possibly playing another Friends in Low Places. And Mateo going ahead and calling the game. He cannot see a path to victory. It gets really hard when your opponent has so many dice. The opening rounds were just amazing. The opening hands were just, holy cow, just the perfect hand for Zach at the beginning. Mateo doing the absolute best and putting up a heck of a fight. Definitely, as far as hands go, was starting from behind, but still made his best effort. Congratulations to both of these players on making it to the World Championships. And thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you guys in the next video. We'll see ya.